Are you in the market for an action game that can help you for your upcoming tests in Zoroastrianism? Then you're in the market for Prince of Persia for the PS3. It is 2008, and the Sands of Time trilogy, which are some of my favorite games on the PS2, had completed a nice circle. The 3 games worked perfectly as a trilogy, and ended with the 3rd game using the opening quote from the first game, only this time with a little bit more meaning. This was an amazing way to bring the trilogy to an end. The only problem is the game sold like hotcakes covered in chocolate-flavored crack, so Ubisoft was in a bind. They needed to make another Prince of Persia game for us climbing game fanatics to get our fix, but they didn't want to just add another game after having nicely wrapped up the trilogy. Ubisoft decided to take the high road and start from scratch. They made an all-new game with a new world, a new prince even, and an all-new art style. All were radically different from the previous game, making this a big gamble for Ubisoft. Unlike previous games in the series, this game is not linear. You are not just running down the path, solving puzzles, and fighting enemies. There are multiple areas on a large open map separated into 4 different bosses. You will need to pick what area you want to go to next. This had potential to create a completely unique experience, depending on what order you complete the game in. But it just turned into a different order of seeing the same events. It's easy to get lost in this giant world, and it comes in handy that Elika can release a light orb that guides you directly where you're heading. There is really a lot to see and do. Some places have hidden areas that you can come back to later in the game with your new powers to access. But all there is in these areas are light seeds, which are collected to open up new areas or to help gamers with a trophy addiction. The graphics in the series got a major overhaul. It is a different kind of cell shading that is really remarkable. Taking the art style into account, it should be in the category of the best looking games on the PS3. And the scenes where Elika heals the land really shows off the art of the game. The bleak dark world quickly getting replaced by the green life is really impressive sight. Another overhaul is in the gameplay. The prince does his normal Prince of Persia thing. He does the running, the climbing, and the sword fighting. This time though, you do it with the help of Elika, who is in my opinion, the greatest non-playable character ever. She is only there to help you, and she never gets in the way. She can help you jump over seemingly impossible gaps, and also comes in handy with her magic during combat. She will always keep up with you, and you never have to wait for her during the platforming, and she can't die. And neither can you, for that matter. This brings up probably the biggest problem with the game for many people, the difficulty factor, or lack thereof. If you mistime a jump, Elika will grab you out of the air and drop you back where you started the sequence. If you run out of health during combat, you are restored, and so is the enemy, so to make it fair. The game isn't really meant to be a challenge so much as it's just meant to be played. It's nice to not have to see that screen, "You have died," every time you mess up a jump, especially now without the time powers of the PS2 games, but you do sometimes feel like you are missing out on the tension knowing that there's no harm in messing up. You will freely jump and miss platforms and die often because you know there's no real consequence. Also changed is the combat. No longer are you fighting multiple enemies at once. Rather, every combat situation is one-on-one, mano-a-mano. This makes each battle feel climactic and special, rather than just hacking through enemy after enemy. But eventually, you'll be reminiscing of the days of yore when you were dancing between enemies like you did in the Sands of Time. Personally, I very much enjoyed this game, and I think everyone else will. It is different, no question about that. They didn't want to just make the same game again, so they tried out some new things. Some things hit it out of the park, while other aspects left the game looking at a belt-high fastball called Third Strike. It is definitely worth your time if you're a fan of the series, or if you're a fan of action games in general. Just don't expect the same experience you had on the PS2.
Well, it's been entertaining.